Hello everyone, and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Whitney and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I am Sunil.
And I'm Whitney, and today we are taking a look at The Fantastic Adventures of Unico, or just Unico if you're watching it in Japan.
I'm probably just gonna call it Unico, because, boy, do The Fantastic Adventures of, or The Adventures of, or The Journey of, it's so unnecessary. Unnecessary title scheme that went on for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
It was used way too often. When it could
America
have just...
has an issue with it, yes.
Well, I mean, and, you could say that we do, as bad of a thing now with titles like Brave, Tangled, like that kind of thing too, where it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the film. But I think there is a nice middle point between these things.
Does Unico count?
Yes.
As halfway between those two things?
Yes, because it's about Unico. There. Done. Boom. Perfect. Send it. Print. Brave does not describe, what the movie is about.
Fair enough.
It could have been titled Bear, and that would have been a better title.
I mean, you're not wrong. Bear!
Bear! Sorry, okay, not to shit on Brave in the middle of this episode, or even at the beginning of this episode. Anyway, Unico, this was awesome!
Oh, yes!
I loved this movie!
A++++.
This is easily the best film we've watched this year so far, and it's gonna be really hard to knock it down from its pedestal.
Uh-huh. So this was brought to us by Sanrio / Tezuka Productions. They're the people that paid for the movie. But the actual animation was done by Studio Madhouse, who goes on to make a lot of amazing things that I didn't think to write down. So they're
so Madhouse will be a part of different animes like One Punch Man, Hunter x Hunter. For more recent stuff, they were the animation studio behind Wolf Children. But stuff that's more recent here is they actually worked on the anime for Aim for the Ace.
Oh.
Yeah, and, I looked up some other stuff. But this is actually their first film.
Yes.
So this is their first film that they've been a part of. Before this, since the early 70s, they've been doing TV stuff. And the majority of the, at least, starting staff for Studio Madhouse is ex-Osamu Tezuka Productions people.
Okay.
So, this is all very kind of interconnected here, which I thought was fun. And they do a fantastic job with the animation in this one.
Oh, it's so charming. And so evil. So perfect.
The combination of Tezuka's designs, Sanrio, just the Sanrio aesthetic, and then Studio Madhouse's animation, what a beautiful pairing here. Because you've got adorable designs. They're
so cute.
They're perfect. They're perfect. Okay? You know how there's all those video essays on how Sonic the Hedgehog is a perfectly designed character?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could do the same thing with every single design in this film.
Maybe not every design, but Unico, Chao. Heck, I'd even say
the little devil.
Akuma-kun.
Yeah, Akuma-kun. Yeah.
All three of these are...
If you're familiar with the English versions, they have slightly different names. Beezle is the name of the little demon child, and
Caddy.
Chao is named Caddy.
Yeah, but I'm going to be referring to them as their Japanese names because we watched it in Japanese.
Yeah. Anyway.
How about let's talk
about a summary. What is Unico?
Okay, Unico is the story of Unico, the small unicorn baby who has magical powers unlike any other unicorn ever born before, that anyone around him is happy. He just makes people happy, and I can only assume it's because he's so goddamn adorable.
I mean, like, they say it's a magical power that comes from his horn, but I honestly think it's just because he's so goddamn cute.
Yeah. He also gets other powers that if people love him in return, he can do other special things that are over the top and ridiculous. And we'll get to some of those as we go on. But anyways, the gods hate him because they're like, how dare he make people happy without suffering first?
Well, no. How dare he make people happy because only we should be allowed to make people happy.
Mm-hmm. So...
That's, like, honestly a real deep cut.
Yeah, real deep cut about religion.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like religion being like, no. Only religion's allowed to make you happy. Nothing else can make you happy.
To note here, Osamu Tezuka is on the record for being agnostic, so...
Anyways, so the gods are like, hey, Westwind, grab that small unicorn and throw him onto this hill of isolation where he'll... Oblivion. Hill of Oblivion, where he's not allowed to talk to or see anyone ever again. And so the wind's like, I'm sorry, but I gotta take the baby. And then as she's flying, she's like, oh, he's so cute. I can't do this.
I can't do this.
So she leaves him.
Same, though. Same.
So instead of leaving him on the Hill of Oblivion, she leaves him on the Island of Isolation. Mm-hmm. Where it's not as bad, I guess. So Unico's left here all alone. He's like, this is terrible. And then he goes inside this castle and there's a demon statue that says, I'm the demon of isolation.
Apparently this is based off of like an Irish myth. This Isle of Isolation, Demon of Isolation.
Okay.
Like this is a mythology thing. So that's where this comes from.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So he goes inside and he's like, I'm the demon of isolation. You're not allowed to be here. And so he shoots lightning bolts. And then he kills himself by collapsing the tower on himself.
Whoops.
Oops. Dumb statue. But that leaves his son, Akuma-kun, or Beezil, to be the new demon of isolation. And he's an absolute brat. But eventually, Unico...
He's a little devil.
Yeah, he's a little demon. Uh-huh. Eventually, Unico does befriend him. And...
In their
like
own
a very
weird way.
Backwards way. It's a really abusive relationship, but like it's a very childlike.
And it's their children, and it's still cute.
Mm-hmm. So they become friends, and Unico gives him his own horn, which makes him so happy that the island transforms from an evil, dreary place to a beautiful island covered in flowers and plants.
Oh, I love it. I'm a sucker for, like, desolate areas being overgrown by nature. Like, oh, give that shit to me. Just inject it straight into my veins. Thank you.
So the problem with this is the gods notice and they're like, wait a minute, that's gotta be Unico. All right, the West Wind very clearly betrayed us, so instead, Night Wind, you go take the child to the Hill of Oblivion.
These magic ladies, man, they are... Okay, we can't go further without talking about the Fantasia inspiration.
Oh, it is very clear that Osamu Tezuka, writing this particular manga, was deeply infatuated with Disney's Fantasia, which is unsurprising because he was
We already knew that. Like, that's not a secret. That's like one of the first things you'll read about Tezuka is that it's like he was super inspired by watching films like Bambi and Fantasia, and then he created the manga. He
created all of anime and manga.
Yeah.
He is, like, the reason that characters have big eyes is because he liked Bambi. He liked the design of Bambi with the big eyes. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before.
And there are, like, specific shots in this where they specifically almost mirror shots done in Bambi, Fantasia. Mm-hmm. Like, there is heavy inspiration from those two films in particular, and I'm going to make a case for another film later on with one of the other characters.
Okay. Now, important to note, this is not a bad thing.
No, it's great. Like, it's not like, it's
This is not ripping off Disney.
It's just inspired by it and doing it again, but different. Like, that's cool. I love it.
I prefer, like, it's okay for it to be obvious what your inspirations were.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways.
Wear your heart in your sleeve.
So the Night Wind is coming to take away baby Unico. So the West Wind shows up first. It's like, all right, you messed up the whole not showing yourself thing, so I got to take you somewhere else. And so she takes him away, and oh no, Akuma-kun and Unico are separated, and they're both really sad about it.
Yeah, it's sad.
So Unico then wakes up in the middle of the woods, all by himself. And then he hears singing from a basket traveling down the river. And it is an adorable little kitty cat named Chao. She is so cute.
It makes me want to die. It's so cute.
How dare these designs be so cute?
Oh my god.
So Unico is now traveling with Chao, and Chao has a dream. She wants to become a witch.
Not just a witch. She wants to become a girl and a witch.
A human witch.
Yes.
And that's adorable. So they find an old lady living out in the middle of the woods by herself, and Chao is convinced this old lady is a witch.
Chao is a cat.
Yeah.
she is 100% a cat. She's so determined that everything she thinks is 100% correct. She's slightly delusional. And she's going to be adorable and sassy while doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So eventually Unico uses his magic to turn Chao into a human girl. And Chao thinks that it was the old lady who was a witch. And so she's now a little human girl, and she's like helping out the witch who's not a witch. But eventually Unico's like, no, I did that. And Chao learns a lesson of, oh, okay. But I'm still gonna like help out here. And I'll be a good little human girl.
I mean, Chao kind of has this thing where she's extremely tempted to, like, just ditch the old woman because she wants to become a witch. And, like, you know, good for Chao for having her dream. It is portrayed as slightly, like, unrealistic and, like, she should just give up on her dreams, which is a little bit of a bummer, but whatever. It's still really cute.
Mm-hmm. So one day she's out getting water, and suddenly evil McBad guy shows up. Mm-hmm. Like, you know he's evil because he's...
Let's just look at him. Look at the way they frame this.
They frame him, the music stings, the wind constantly blowing through only his hair and his horse's hair. No one else gets wind, only him. He's evil.
I love this movie.
In fact, like, his English name, his last name is McGhost.
Yeah.
Or De Ghost or something.
It was like Baron De Ghost.
Something like that. It's like, yeah, he's a bad guy.
He's not even like Sir or whatever. He's Baron. You know, if their title is Baron, they're probably no good.
So he's like, you sing really nicely. Come to my castle tomorrow night and sing for my friends. And then we get a scene of him riding through the forest and poisoning animals to become evil.
Okay, so here's where I'm gonna make a case for the other Disney film that I think inspired some of the visuals here, and it's Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
he's very much so the Headless Horseman.
Oh yeah, like some of the like ways he's like riding his horse, and like the way they frame the cape around his head, like he looks like the Headless Horseman, and they like silhouette him in like the exact same way. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it.
So Chao sneaks out the next night. Mm-hmm. She eats some berries and becomes hypnotized by them the same way the animals were. Yeah,
it gets really kind of creepy here.
And she walks right into the castle, and then he gives her a drug in some wine. And then she...
It's real uncomfortable.
And then she passes out, and he lays her on his bed. And then Unico causes the distraction and digs his way through the wall with his horn.
Yeah.
And saves her from bad things.
Bad things.
But they get outside, and immediately the guy shows back up, and he's like, I'm going to fight you with my sword, small unicorn. And Unico's like, yeah, well, I'm going to fight you with my horn. And then they have a sword-horn fight.
It's so cool.
It's great. But Unico loses, and he needs help, so the West Wind grabs Akuma-kun and comes to the rescue.
I love it. Just bringing it all back around.
Yeah. And so Akuma-kun and Unico work together to scale the castle where Chao has now been chained to the top of the castle for some reason.
This gets wild, y'all. Like, I almost don't want to spoil this ending because, like, this gets really wild. But holy cow. If you're interested in checking out this movie, maybe stop our review right now, go watch it, and come back. Because, like, it's going to get crazy from here.
It's great. Baron de Ghost gets attacked by Unico, and then he falls off the castle and gets skewered by one of the spikes in the
Spires.
The spires. And then he transforms into the castle, and then he turns into a demon.
It's so wild.
So now
He turns into Chernobog.
Yeah, he turns into Chernobog from the Night on Bald Mountain section of Fantasia.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he looks different, but like that's the obvious inspirations going on here, and it's great.
Uh-huh.
So we have a small unicorn from the
Pastoral
Symphony section of Fantasia fighting Chernobog from the Night on Bald Mountain section of Fantasia. It's amazing.
Like, there are points in this where, like, this really feels like Fantasia fanfiction.
Oh, it is.
And,
It
like,
absolutely is.
It's amazing.
As someone who is a big fan of Fantasia, this is the kind of fanfiction I want to see. This is the inspiration I want to see Fantasia give, not we're going to make a Fantasia, but we're going to poke fun at the idea of Fantasia.
Right, where it's just like
the
oh,
Looney
look,
Tunes has done.
We're doing the thing, but we're going to make it stupid because Fantasia's stupid. It's like, all right, wow, you're so cool.
Fuck you, Looney Tunes. You guys suck. Anyways, the animation here is great. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There is like the framing, the actual movement, the lighting, the colors, everything is great. And eventually, through the power of light, they banish the darkness demon and he goes back to hell.
Woo!
Unfortunately, this means that the gods have noticed all of this happen. And
Yeah.
so Unico has to leave once more. But Akuma-kun says, I'm gonna find you wherever you go, Baka. You can't get away from me. And Chao decides she's gonna stay with the old lady.
It's a bittersweet ending, but
And
it
that's where
feels
the
so earned, and I love it.
And the movie ends there. But in 2 years' time, in 1983, this movie gets a direct sequel. So, yes!
Yeah, yes. Give
It's like-
me more.
because
Give me more.
If this was all there was, I'd be very sad. But no, this movie, we know, has a guaranteed sequel. So, give it to me now!
How long until we get to 1983? Like 2 years? Ah, damn it.
I would say like a year and a half.
Probably.
Maybe not that much, but like a year.
It's gonna take a while.
Because there's so many movies we have to watch. But I am on the edge of my seat waiting for Unico 2.
Unico 2, the Revengeing.
So yeah, I just gotta say, this movie was very well done. I love all the subtle animation by all the characters. They all feel very unique, not just in design, but the way they move, and like, you can tell that they think and feel differently than each other. It's just so good.
And I know I've been gushing about this film, but I really do want to emphasize that I think this film walks a very tight line between being so cute it kind of rots your teeth out, or like can't take itself seriously, and taking itself seriously. And the it doesn't take itself too seriously either, where, you know, it loses your interest. Like, there is a fine line in this where you have like children in peril, and they are put in dangerous situations. But it doesn't feel hopeless. The children are capable of taking care of themselves, and it's fun, and it's cute, but also serious and can be dramatic, and have a few moments where you're just, you know, a bit on your edge of your seat, because you don't want to see these cute, fun characters be hurt. And, you know, they do go through a struggle, but they also are able to overcome it. And, like, I think with dealing with characters like this little and cute and small, like, that can be a very hard line to balance on.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie does a really great job of that.
This movie came out the same weekend
Mm-hmm.
as Doraemon.
Way better.
Literally the next day. These are both very clearly aimed at children. And if I had kids, I know which of these two movies I would absolutely take my kids to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do wonder, because I don't have the numbers for this, but I do wonder, like, how their box office...
How they did next to each other?
Yeah, how they did next to each other. Because, like, Doraemon's already an established franchise, and Unico is also an established franchise as one of Osamu Tezuka's mangas. I will say that this is one... Osamu Tezuka created over 700 mangas, and this is one that is not even listed as its more, like, one of his more notable works.
That's amazing.
Like...
Dude worked overtime.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's actually insane.
Yeah. How? How did he do so much?
When I read that he'd done over 700 mangas, and this isn't even listed as one of his notable works, there was a part in my brain where it's like, well, maybe this is one that he, like, wrote and he gave to somebody else to, like, create or something like that. Is that how he made so many? Is he, like, partially kind of taking credit for, like, other people working for him? But, like, no, nothing I could find said that, like, this was partially created by somebody else. It's just like, no, this is one of Osamu Tezuka's mangas.
Good grief. I mean, we've already covered many of his... Or a handful, I would say, of his works.
A handful.
And I know we've skipped, like, 10 to 15 others because they're not... They don't fit the criteria for Animation Pilgrimage.
Right.
But, like, there are other adaptations of his works out there that we haven't touched. Mm-hmm. And I know we'll eventually see more of his works.
Yeah.
But it's just like, this is ridiculous.
So, more things about this is that Unico was... Originally, the manga was published by Sanrio.
Oh.
Which is why Sanrio is so involved in this production. So, Unico was kind of tied to the Hello Kitty...
Sanrio universe.
But after Osamu Tezuka's death, the rights for Unico transferred back to Tezuka Productions.
Okay.
So that would have been in 1989. The movie right before this of Sanrio's that we saw, because, you know, when you think of Sanrio, probably the most notable thing we've seen from them is The Ringing Bell.
Yes.
But the films we saw right before this one were Winds of Change and Nutcracker Fantasy. So just to put that into perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is much better than any of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you know, like I said before, Studio Madhouse is going to go on to create some really amazing stuff. And,
absolute bangers.
Yeah. And Sanrio too. And, and like I said, this was just a really great trifecta of, like, studio and peoples coming together. I love this.
Absolutely.
Definitely check this one out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, either way, I think it's time for us to wrap this review up. So join us back here next time as we watch another Japanese film. But it's only half Japanese this time. We're going to be watching Swan Lake by Toei of Japan and Soi's Molten Film from Soviet Union once again. They teamed up for a second time.
Hell yeah. I'm looking forward to this.
Let's see what they have for us.
Yes.
魔法使いはこ